boring. Same as Arabic.
Whose language?
Arabic is boring also.
Well, that's why you're an engineer and not a linguist.
Arabic tenses are three,
Right?
dual and plural, right?
I just means I couldn't fit the answer. I couldn't fit. Not available. Not no answer. Just because these questions ask you to draw.
Yeah, I know.
There's no space. That's all. You know.
Arabic.
I'll show you how you can get the answer.
This is ma in Arabic.
This is ma.
Yeah, ma.
What?
What is ma?
He just
in
teach
Arabic?
me this name is ma in Arabic.
M.A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda. Just.
For this one,
Do you know what it is in Irish? Ishka. Yeah. Yeah. Ishka. Yeah. That's the.
I know Kalam.
Huh?
Does Irish very different from English?
Very, very different, and it's very difficult as well. Irish.
I know Kalam. I know.
yes, I know.
Yeah. Like, I'll give you a simple example. Like, here's
Teacher, so Irish official language is Irish.
Irish and English.
Irish
two.
and English.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's Celtic, I think, not Irish.
So I just want to give you an example of how difficult Irish is. Okay, these three sentences seem very similar, don't they? Because what's the verb in each case? Am. So this one here, okay, is Tom. That's I am. This one here is ta brown urum.
Tom Boromo.
And ta far. Oh, sorry, no, I've got that wrong. Is far a. So,
Oh, it's strange.
so in this one here, the verb is here, and the pronoun is here as one word. Okay. In this one, the verb is here, and the pronoun, the I, is here.
Oh.
And in this one here, the verb is here. And sorry, I meant to say may. And the pronoun is here. That's the I. And then here, that's the I. And then here, that's the I. And the am is ta, the am is ta, and the am is here. Do you see? Like in English, the verb is the same, and the pronoun is the same, right? And in probably in Arabic as well. You know, if you said I am sorry, I am a man, the same verb, yeah, and the same pronoun, I. Yeah. Of course, it makes sense, right? Not in Irish.
Arabic depends on the gender, actually.
Oh yeah, that's right. It has a gender, unlike English. Then, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's very different to English, and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Yeah. And most people in Ireland don't like it. It's too It's such a difficult language because it's a very, very old language. Very old.
As
Very
old
old.
as,
In the history,
It's one of the ancient languages.
in the history, the Irish language, its real name is Celtic.
Yeah, it's a Celtic language. Yeah, which is an ancient language.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a modern language like English or French or German.
Yeah.
It's
It's
older
a
than
little
that.
associated with Latin.
yeah, I think
Yeah, but it's
Arabic
older
is
than
the
that.
oldest.
Yeah, it's older than Latin.
Okay, this is
A very
older.
long time ago,
The
master-
language is older than Latin.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
A very long time ago, the master of Ireland, Irish Ireland, is Celtic.
Yeah,
And
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's not as old as
Anglo-Saxon is from Germany.
correct. Yeah.
It's not as old as the Egyptian language or the Hebrew.
No, it's as old.
It's as old.
Yeah, because the people in Ireland, their buildings would be as old as the pyramids. So you can go to a
So
place.
Ireland was part of the early civilizations.
You can go to a place. Has anyone heard of this place in Ireland?
Newgrange.
Newgrange. Okay, it was made by the ancient people of Ireland. I think you'll like it actually. It's basically, it's kind of like what you might call an ancient temple. It's a circle like this, okay, and it has a little tunnel, and it has kind of like a chamber here, like a worship chamber, you know. But the way they made this, guys, yeah, that's it. That's the picture of it. The way they made this was quite interesting. Can you look up? I think you might find this as a little interesting fact. Guys, I'm giving you something interesting here about Ireland.
It is a prototype of the temporary.
It's a temple,
Yeah, it's
but the way they made it was very, very smart. So inside here is completely dark, right? No light can get in, 100% dark. And they made it so that for 3 days a year, for 10 minutes a day, in December 24th, 5th and 6th, the morning sunlight just about reaches inside and lights it up. So only for 3 days a year for 10 minutes. So it means 30 minutes of light per year, and then the rest of the year it's dark. You know? I think this here is
They need the
8000 BC.
I remember a very interesting detail that the Star Wars Fallen Jedi is a temporary. It's a prototype of a temporary. It's like this.
Possibly.
Star Wars.
There were some things in Star Wars that were modelled on Ireland. You know?
Remember the temple of the devil.
Yeah.
And then it's just like that. And when the sun fallen, and it come inside, and it found an echo, some history about the fallen Jedi.
Yeah, I think so.
It's meant for worship, and people only worship in its 25th.
It's not like there was no writing from back then, so people can only guess, you know. So they think maybe they had a ceremony in here once a year, because
10 minutes.
yeah, like because they might. I think people are guessing that they believe that when the sun reaches into the cave, it can take the spirits away. You know, some maybe some belief like this. Like
But
nobody knows.
But like,
you know.
like the Earth is it always on one position to the extent that the sunlight is consistent every
No,
year?
well, yes, every year, but over the thousands of years, it moves slightly. So,
Yeah.
like nowadays, it's 30 minutes, but maybe 10,000 years ago, maybe it was less time, or maybe it was more, because the Earth moves
Yeah, slightly.
over thousands of years. But mostly year to year, it'll be the exact same as this. You know. Anyways, they must have been pretty good at engineering to do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know it's not an easy thing to build it in the exact right position to do this.
For example, it needs very accuracy.
So Irish people are smart enough, you know. At least the ancient ones, you know.
Really smart, not
Yeah.
smart enough.
Iceland was conquered
And they were civil
three
engineers.
times.
The civil engineers, correct? Yeah, yeah.
Once by Roma, once by Faham Empire, once by the Roman.
No, Ireland was never conquered by the Romans.
It was by the British.
Yeah, but never the Romans.
That's why.
Because they thought it, yeah, it's complicated history. The Romans never came to Ireland.
Oh, maybe I made
Do you know what?
Why
It's because they thought it was too cold. True, because the Roman name for Ireland, do you know what it is? It's Hibernia, which translates as eternal winter. Right? So, they never came because it was too cold. You know, France and UK, that's fine. Ireland, no.
The source is actually really complicated. The sun comes out by 8 and
in
sets
Chinese
by.
Yeah.
English book.
The Romans didn't like that.
They told us
Our
And that's
sun,
good.
our sun comes out by 6 and sets
What
by
comes?
6.
In Chinese English Highlands book in high school,
Yeah.
they told us the Noma has conquered the island.
Yeah,
Maybe they conquered England, but not
yeah,
Ireland.
yeah. It was the Vikings that conquered parts of Ireland. You know the Vikings?
No.
No, you know the Vikings.
Yeah.
And the
The
British
pirates?
obviously
Yeah.
conquered Ireland. Yeah, but not. I don't know about the Normans.
Odin.
The Romans, no. You know. But anyways, Chinese students told me that in China, a lot of people think Ireland is part of England.
I
Yeah.
also
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
Ireland is part of
This is
it.
very wrong.
Yeah, they
Don't
think
know that.
What's up,
their
Scotland?
north of Ireland is belong to
Only the north.
only
Only the north.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
What about
think
Scotland?
North
Like,
Ireland is equal
that's
to
part of
Ireland.
UK, right?
Yeah, they're different.
So you
Very
decide the
different.
Republic of Ireland.
Yes. Yeah.
And
All right. Let's continue with this now. So we're going to have a look at the quadratic formula.
Almighty.
I think this is a formula you already know, isn't it? Yeah. But what I need to do first is to prove it. So if you can write this proof down carefully. So the first thing I'll do, this is equal to 0, and I'll divide everything by a. So on. Okay, English, please.
Everything by A except yeah.
Is okay? Yeah.
See?
Yeah, yeah.
So many processes.
Now,
Go straight to the point.
now, next thing. Did you find water?
Thank you very much.
Yes. Was it in the library?
Yeah,
Okay, all right. Now,
Well,
now you won't dehydrate now. Yeah. Right. So I'm trying to complete the square here. If I'm trying to complete the square, what will I write down here? Son, please. If I try to complete the square, what do I write down here? X plus
B over A.
B
2a.
C A, yeah.
Because you
Divided by
half
two.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Square.
Squared.
Uh,
And then
equals to-
plus.
E over A
Yeah.
minus
Yeah.
B square
Yeah.
over 4A.
Good stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Now,
What should I do?
yeah, what should do next?
Take it.
These
side.
look. Yeah, we'll take the other side, and then we'll do the other thing. X plus b over 2a squared equals b squared over 4a squared minus c over a. Yeah?
I think we should listen.
Okay, now I'll just pause for a minute to let you write that much down, and then we'll continue it. You got that written down? Yeah?
A moment.
Okay.
Completing the square.
Yep. One, two, three, four, five.
We went to bank.
Yeah. he went to the
He's
bank.
opening his account.
Yeah, took an excuse.
What time? Do you know was his appointment at?
10.
10 for 2.
When the student service email asked them to go there 9:40 and then they will go there for 10 o'clock.
Oh, so shouldn't he be finished by now? How long did it take you to open your account?
But in a long time.
Ah.
They went as a group.
Oh, all right, fine. Okay, so there's other accounts to open at the same time, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, do you have that written down?
Yes.
Yes. So, any ideas on what I could do next to simplify this?
2. We can factorize 2 out, I think.
You could, yeah. I suppose what I want to try and do is to get these together as one fraction.
Okay, yeah.
Mm.
So 4A.
4a,
cubed.
yeah. We don't.
No, yeah, 4A.
Yes, I know why I said 4a cubed. We don't need to go to cube though. What I could do as a little trick is I could multiply the top and bottom here by 4a.
Yeah.
So this will become 4a squared.
Yeah.
And if I multiply this by 4a, it becomes 4ac.
No, shouldn't that be 4A cubed? Because you are
No, I'm
multiplying
multiplying
by 4A.
Yeah, and there's only an a there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Now, what's the common denominator here? 4a squared. Now, can you see the formula is starting to appear?
Yeah.
Yeah, before your eyes. Okay. Right. Now remember, I'm trying to get x. So what could I do next?
Remove the square.
Yeah. So on the top I have plus or minus root b squared minus 4ac all over. And what's the root of 4a squared?
2A.
2a. Oh, indeed, yes.
It's out.
X equals minus b over 2a plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. What's left to do?
Minus b.
2a, 2a.
Yeah, well, put them as one fraction because they have the common denominator. Looks familiar?
Yeah.
Looks very familiar, I hope. And that's the quadratic formula. A formula I hope you've all seen before.
Almighty.
Yes. Yes, that's what I've heard students call it before. Yeah, you got that, yeah?
Wait a moment.
Okay.
So in exam, you would advise me when we're solving, we solve like this.
No, I see. I'm just giving you the proof of the
No,
formula.
like in
It's
general,
the
like
final way.
the way you solve.
Oh, we'll do some examples now. That would be like exam questions.
No, what I mean like is the process is the steps.
Figure out A, B, C, and then put the number A.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah, I know. Like generally, the way he solves his questions, he just like inputs the values and solves. Like.
Yeah.
But you know,
Just-
us, we are taught formula first, right? Step.
Oh, you want to know how much do you have to write down
Yeah.
for
Like,
it? Yeah. So I'll do some examples now of what I would see as like exam questions, and I'll show you how much you have to write down. So for the IFY exam, for most of the questions, you don't have to worry too much about having enough written down. But there are one or two questions where they'll say in the question, you must clearly show all your workings. And for these ones, it's very important that you have all the steps very clear. But most of the time, you could maybe skip over a step and it doesn't affect your marks, Well, we'll see now. I'll do an example now, okay? Do you have that formula? Yeah. Okay, let's practice using this formula. Now, you'll need your calculators, but let's have a look. Can I scroll down? Yeah. Now look, for this example, you could find factors, but I want to practice using the formula. Okay? So we start off by saying what A is. Oh, before I continue, I need to say, for this formula, it's absolutely vital that A is not 0.
Yeah.
Because the formula doesn't make sense, because then you don't have a quadratic. Okay.
But B and C can be 0.
Yes. Yeah. A is equal to 6. B is equal to 1, and C is equal to minus 2.
yeah.
So, Bello, I would say in an exam, it would probably be good to actually write that down at the start of the question. Okay. Now, the formula is, I'll just write it again, minus b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac
Yeah.
all over 2a.
This is what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
We don't do this. We just
Yeah.
do stuff
In the exam, you can still get full marks if you just directly
put in
the numbers immediately. Yeah. So I'll just put a little star here to mean you don't have to write that down. You could just jump straight into using the formula, which would be minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4a, and the c is minus 2, all over 2a, which is obviously 12. 2 times 6. Okay? Now, this is minus 1 plus or minus the square root, what's that? 48 plus 1, 49 over 12. So you have equals minus 1 plus or minus 7 over 12. So you get x equals, let's do the plus first, minus 1 plus 7, 6 over 12, a half. And then minus 1 minus 7, minus 8, which is minus 2 over 3. true. They're the two answers then. Okay? So, for exam purposes, the absolute minimum you have to write, is this and this. That's the minimum. Because this proves that you know the formula and used it correctly, and this proves you calculated everything correctly to get the answer, right? So that's the minimum you have to write in the exam. The minimum. Sometimes students, they don't write this, and they just write the answer. And then I can't always give the marks. Especially if the question said, imagine the question said use the quadratic formula, and the student just write the answer. Well, how do I know they used the quadratic formula if they just wrote the answer? Do you know? But if they at least write this, then it proves they used the quadratic formula. So it's okay then. Yeah? Are you alright with that?
Yeah.
Now, for the next one, the answer won't work out as nicely. It will have square roots in it still. You notice that this one worked nicely because of here,
Yeah, because of
the 49. What type of number is 49? What do we call this type of number?
square.
Perfect square. Yeah, yeah. And you might know this, but we had it a couple of lessons ago. And what do we call it when it's not a perfect square? What's the name of that number? Oh, very good, surd. Yeah. See, they all should have known that because we did that a few lessons ago. Right. Can I scroll down? Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at another example. Now, I'll let you try this first, and then I'll give you the answer. I want the let's see. Yeah. X squared plus 12x plus 16. And I want the exact simplified answer. Or answers. There's usually two. Oh, so before you begin, just before you begin, what do I mean when I say exact? Do I mean, for example, the answer could be like this? The answer could be like this, or the answer could be like this. What's the meaning of exact? The left or the right?
Left.
Very good. Not decimal. That's the meaning of exact. Okay. And simplified, you know what this word means, simplified. Okay, see what you can do here, and I'll give you the answer in a moment. How are we doing, guys? You got an answer there? Let me just write down. Sorry, who did we say we're missing? David, wasn't it? Oh yeah, he's opening his bank account, you said. Well! Speak of the devil.
Yeah.
I was just saying, where were you opening your bank account, and then you suddenly appeared. But I'm afraid I do have to mark you absent for the first class. Because, 35 minutes. But that's no problem, because you were making your bank... You were with Emer, was it?
Yeah.
Who were you with? Sharon, was it? Yeah, okay, that's fine. So did you have to wait until everyone finished making their account?
No, I was the first, but I had to wait for the two other guys too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You have to wait until they made their account.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
This is just before the answer, right? Can you see some people while you do this?
Like this.
Yeah.
This is not final.
Oh, it's not a fraction.
Say again?
But this
No, it isn't. Oh, it's not a fraction, but it's still a third, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
two.
guys.
Yeah, to choose whether
Guys.
right, 40.
Can we look at this, or do you need another minute? Yeah, we look at it. Okay, so you have x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Yeah? That's x equal to minus 12 plus or minus, what's that, 80?
Yeah.
Yeah. Over 2. Which equals minus 12 plus or minus 4 times 20. No, 16 times.
These two, those two divided.
16 times 5 would be best, wouldn't it?
Yeah. 4 root 5.
Yeah, because then you can change it into 4 root 5. Plus or minus 4 root 5 over 2. And then what can I do? Divide everything by 2. So you're left with minus 6 plus or minus
2 root 5.
2 root 5.
That's it, yeah.
Don't we need to say like plus and minus? Like give two answers.
Oh no, this is fine. Oh, do you mean like plus, comma, and then the minus answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay, not necessary. Right. A common well, okay, you tell me this. What do you think would be a common mistake a student might make? Well, you can just leave that for a second. No, just leave it for a second. What do you think a common mistake might be in the exam for a question like this?
Plus or minus.
No, people usually get the plus and the minus.
They got the.
They either don't simplify, so they stop here,
Yeah.
or what's another common problem you think in the exam?
Dividing the 80 by 2.
I know, that's actually okay, people don't usually do that.
I just did that.
Alright, okay, congratulations then.
Got the root minus.
No, I'll tell you the two common mistakes people make. The first one is they don't simplify this, and the second one is they think exact means decimal.
Oh.
So they would write the answer as something point something. You know? So these are the two most common mistakes with this question in the exam.
If you do if you do any of the mistakes, what is the consequence?
Well, let's say, for example, this was a 3-mark question for 3 marks. Okay, that would, to me, probably mean there'd be 1 mark for using the quadratic formula, then there'd be 1 mark for simplifying, and then 1 mark for getting the right answer at the end. So, for example, let's say you use the formula, you simplify, but then maybe you made a silly mistake at the end. Like, for example, instead of saying minus 6 plus or minus 2, you say minus 6 plus or minus 4. You forget to do something like divide this by 2. Well, that's okay, because then you still get 2 out of 3. You just lose the last mark for the answer. Okay? If you forget to simplify, that's worse because you only get 1 mark. Because you never simplified here. Okay, and you never get this mark.
And what if you actually get here that you now decided to?
If you got this and a decimal, then that'd probably be 1 mark. Oh, if you got here,
yeah, then you now added decimal again on top.
yeah, if you change this into a decimal.
Like this is there already. Then you now put equals to.
Oh, I would usually still give the mark to the student because I can see this on the page. So I can say that's fine. Yeah. So usually in those situations I'd usually give the mark anyways. Yeah. And then lastly, if the student made a mistake here, maybe they did something like they put a plus here by mistake, you know, or maybe instead of writing 2A here, they wrote 2B or something silly like that. Well, they won't get this mark, but if they still simplify it, they'll get this mark, but they won't get the last mark because obviously they'll have the wrong answer. Okay? This is usually how the marking works in the exam. Usually there's always one mark at the end for getting the perfect right answer, but then there's steps along the way where you get marks.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, yeah. So it really depends on the question. So this is how I would see it working for this one here. Yeah. Okay. Now the next thing we need to talk about is something I think you already know about, maybe from physics and chemistry. Significant figures and decimal places. Yeah. So we've talked about this a little bit in physics. So we'll just practice some real quick to make sure you're all right. So if I write, let's say 12.2, that is 3 significant figures. 1, 2, 3. Yeah? But we also say it's 1 decimal place, because there's 1 after the decimal. Okay? What about something like 0.0123? How many decimal places is that? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah.
Decimal places.
Yeah.
But how many significant figures is it?
3.
Yeah, good. That's 1, 2, 3. Yeah? Is that okay? Yeah. So let's just do one here. 45.45. What would that be if I say give it to me to 1 decimal place? What would that number be?
45.5.
45.5. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, now a little bit harder. Just think for a minute. If I said 1 significant figure, 50. Good job. 50. Yeah. Okay. So I think you all are happy with decimal DP and SF. Yeah. Because sometimes in the exam you would have a question like this. They would say, find the roots of, let's see, x squared plus 3x plus 1 to 1 dp. Now, when there's a question that says to 1 dp, like this, there's 1 bonus mark, there's 1 extra mark. So the last example, how many marks were in that question? 3. So if this was an exam question, there'd be 4 marks now. What do you think that extra mark is for?
1 dp.
The 1 dp. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you don't give your answer to 1 dp, then you don't get that 1 extra mark. You understand? So you have to be careful about that in the exam. Alright? Now, I'll give you a minute to try this. This one's actually easier because you can just use your calculator directly. You don't need to simplify, you know. Yeah. Right, see what you get here for this one. Jason,
Yeah.
that's a lovely pink calculator you have. It matches your outfit so well.
No,
Yeah.
it's not mine.
It's not yours.
Yeah.
It's a gift from France.
Whose is it? Your sister's.
Valentine's calculator.
Indeed. If it works, it's fine. Oh, who was emailing me about the calculator? Yeah. So, did you buy that one, or are you going to try and order the other one? Get the other one I recommended. Yeah. Okay.
Is that?
How do you find the roots? How do you find the roots?
Yeah.
How to
Oh,
find
sorry,
the roots?
Bello. When we say root, it's another word for meaning solution. X. So just use the formula.
So normal factorization or
Quadratic formula. Yeah,
Okay,
please.
okay.
Yeah. Ah,
Um,
thank you. Go ahead now, yeah.
Teacher, what is 1 dp?
1 decimal place. Yeah. After the point. Alright, you probably have an answer now, do you? So, if you write this down, x equals minus 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2. So what is the plus answer?
Minus 3. No. 0.4. Negative 7.
0.4. What was it before you rounded?
3819.
381. Yeah, okay, good. And then if you were to get the minus answer, what's that?
Minus 2.6.
2.6. And what was it beforehand?
2.618.
2.6.
Okay, okay. So that's the answer for this one. Yeah. So not a difficult lesson today for this one, especially because you've all have used this formula before, right? So I'll just I'll give you a few questions here. It won't take you a few minutes. We'll say 1AB, 2AB, 3AB, and 4. Now this one is a little bit hard. Nah, 4's enough. 4's enough. Well, if you want to do 5 as well, you can. Alright, fine, okay. And then for Jeffrey, 5.
Sir,
Yeah.
the math exam, the first one was like how many questions, like how many marks do you know?
The end of semester 1 exam has it.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, the first exam that's worth 10% of your grade
Okay.
has a section A and B. Section A is 40%,
Okay.
and it's about 10 questions usually. And section B is 4 long questions. So it's 10 short questions and 4 long questions is the exam.
Well, like the 10 short questions are like, there's no objective paper, everything just theory.
No, the 10 short questions are like questions from the workbook.
And what I'm saying is like, they're not objectives, like they have option A, B, C.
Oh, no, it's not multiple choice. They're just 10 short calculation questions. A lot like what you would have in the workbook. Like, for example, this question here would be a section A question. Because it's kind of a quick, calculation question. Yeah? And then section B we'll look at later in the semester. These will be longer topic questions like calculus or things like this. Or trigonometry or something,
Well, for the end of year exam.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So have every.
Huh?
The end of year exam, does it have multiple choice?
No, none of the maths exams have multiple choice. The chemistry exam, I think, has multiple choice.
Physics?
And physics doesn't. No, the physics and maths exams are calculation exams, Here's a problem, calculate the answer. Here's a problem, calculate the answer.
Like no wording.
Huh?
No writing.
There's a few definitions in the physics exams, but it's not too bad.
Most of
It's
them
mostly, I would say 90% calculation,
Okay.
10% definitions.
Mhm.
And the maths would be 98% calculations and 2% you have to write something.
And everything requires calculation.
Say again?
Every single session requires calculation.
No, I mean, some of the questions you can do without a calculator, but some of the questions, it's impossible, like this one here. So I wouldn't say everything needs a calculator, but you can use a calculator in everything.
There's no proof questions.
Not really. Kind of
Like-
small little ones.
Like proof by words, I mean.
No.